Have you ever found yourself battling what feels like a cycle of living paycheck to paycheck and wanted to break that cycle? Well, today's guest empowers individuals to free themselves from that cycle. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk and hear how she does it.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Patrina Dixon, that's my guest today, is a personal finance expert. She's an international speaker, an award-winning author, a host of the Money Exchange podcast as well. Her trademark brand, It's My Money, I like that, by the way, with a nice TM sitting by it, consists of financial workshops, a blog, retail products as well. She's also been featured in CNBC, Black Enterprise, Experian, Medium, Fox 61, and she's a 100 Women of Color alumna. So we got a good one with us today. Welcome to the show, Patrina.
Hello, Rob. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good. That's quite a healthy bio. I pride myself in my bio, but that's a good one. Did I miss anything, or we got you covered there?
No, you got me covered. Sometimes when I hear that, I'm like, oh, wow, that's me.
You know what? How many times is, because I know you speak, it's the same way. Somebody will be introduced to me and I'll be in the back going, boy, that's a very impressive guy we're talking about. And then we get up there and everybody says it sees we bleed just like you do. We
Yes.
stub our foot and put our foot in our mouth on occasion. But that's the world that we live in. It sounds like you've been at this for a while, Patrina. So let's start with this one. What do you wish you had known when you started out that you've learned now?
So, it's everything that I do, I wish I knew some time ago. I didn't know anything about personal finance. What I knew is you went to work, you made money, and then every so often you had to pay bills. I didn't know about paying myself first. I didn't know about budgeting. I didn't know about credit scores, and having a really high one was really important. So, investing, please, that was like not even heard of where I grew up. So I wish I knew the importance of saving money, the difference between assets and liabilities, and ensuring you're set up in case anything catastrophic happens, like what happened to the whole world actually in 2020.
Yeah, it's I hear you. We learn about assets and liabilities when we go into business in a hurry. Uh, I've always sort of questioned why, to this day, we still have our education system that seems to not really want to participate. And so there we are. We're going through school and perhaps going for a higher education, and we walk out and we don't know the difference between an asset and a liability.
Mm.
But we learn in a hurry, don't we?
We do, and not only do still today, because it was when I was in school as well. I'm assuming when you were in as well, that students are leaving high school and in some cases college without even knowing the difference between gross and net pay. Forget assets and liabilities. All they know is this is what goes into my account that I have given my employer. So, and I learned those hard facts out meeting with students, going to high schools, going to colleges. So it is still, it's not an age old thing. It's still today a much needed thing for our youth to know about personal finances and how to manage money. And I have worked with my local senator here in Connecticut to try to make it mandated for at least a half credit course to be every high school student to pass before graduating high school. We aren't there yet. We've made some progress. So I'm hoping that, we'll continue to move forward with trying to make that a reality.
I just think that's wonderful. I really do. And I'm a process guy. I'm a former Xerox guy. So rather than be a cheerleader, I like the fact that you're actually trying to get something in place. So don't talk to me about it. Show me, put a half a credit or a credit by it and make it, a part of the curriculum. Because I don't know about your parents, but boy, we never went to my dad and asked him about his finances. It was almost like the play Oliver, the musical Oliver, when he goes and asks for more porridge.
Yes.
And they're like, burn him, take him around and learn him. I mean, you just didn't go, hey, Dad, can you explain gross net to me? I'm not so sure he knew about it either, by the way. The older generations really, it just wasn't a part of their planning. They were going, they worked one place, they got a 50-year watch, and the corporation or the company took care of them. We don't live in that world anymore. And
Exactly
yeah,
right. Exactly right. And the whole thing is like, so when you say take care of them, like what does that mean? Does they just stop working? Like when they got when they're taken care of, it meant that they no longer had to get up every day, get dressed, and go there. But were they really set up to no longer work? You know what I mean? So it may have that sum of money that they potentially get on a monthly basis may have worked for that period. But if they're still with us today, is it still something that they can live on at this point in time? So I think the whole definition of retirement and what that means is, and not think it is different. It happens at different points. It's not just age. It's not number of years on a company, at a company, working for a company. It's really defined differently today. And I think that the conversations in some situations didn't happen at home or at the dinner table because the adults that needed to have them weren't managing their money
right.
either. So how can you, as the parent, you are who your child or children are modeling and getting, even if they don't say that they are hearing what we're saying, and you're instilling things in them by what they see and hear. So if you aren't managing your money, you don't want to be seen as that person that don't know a topic to your child, right? So you don't talk about that topic. I'm not going to talk about money, not so much how much I make and how much our bills are, but not even touching the topic, because if the child goes deeper, then I can't go there with them. And that's what I found in working with students, that I would teach them certain things and they were going home talking to their parents. And then I got the call from the parents, like, what are you teaching, Bob, Sally, and Jane? And it was, it then had me pivot my business into working with adults, because though the adults, when they were more financially astute, they were then better equipped to have these conversations with their young people at the dinner table. So that's kind of actually how it happened.
That's that's just so smart. I really like where you're coming from there because I never thought of that. I told you, to me it was sort of forbidden, but I never understood why it was so forbidden. And I think you've just hit it right on the nose. It's forbidden because if I dug any deeper with my dad, um, in my personal world, it would have been offensive because it would have been embarrassing to him.
Mhm.
He
Exactly.
didn't know the answer. So it wasn't necessarily something that we couldn't talk about. It was something that he did not know the answer to. Really good. You know what? You've cleared up the mystery, at least as to, I knew I wasn't learning. I didn't know why. Now I got
And
it. All right.
yeah,
So
and let me add
yeah,
that caveat. Now that definitely, as with everything, is not true to every
of
household,
course.
or the reason why a lot of the conversations didn't happen everywhere. But that definitely is the reason why it didn't happen in a lot of situations.
Right. And I want to clear up the fact, love the world of podcasting where you can't see people, but I'm of a generation of past you. So we're talking a couple generations back. My
Mhm.
dad, fought in World War II.
Okay.
So we're talking about that greatest generation. They were the greatest generation. They just weren't necessarily the greatest financial generation. There were
Got it.
so wonderful, really, really interesting. Let's stay on this. There's so much we could get at, but let's boil this down a little bit. So give me one or two lessons somewhere in the journey, now that you've learned it, that had the biggest impact on your career or your life.
Yes. So I will say on my finances, I would say this is pay yourself first. Now, for I define that as I define that as however you get money in, so your income, a portion of that should go to you. So for me, to Patrina, not to Patrina's mortgage, not to Patrina's car payment, to Patrina. Because when life happens, Patrina has to take care of it. So like when our hot water tank busted. I couldn't go to the mortgage company and say, let me have some of that back because I have to pay for the water heater. So you have to take care of that. So it doesn't matter if you work for an employer, you work for yourself, in the entrepreneurial journey, well, however you get money in, a portion or a percent of that needs to go to you. And I suggest that being an online only, so web-based savings account. Right now, none of them really have like high interest earning, but the highest one you can find at whatever point in time you're listening to this and would take up doing that, go find you the highest interest online only savings account. And what I mean by online only, so not a brick and mortar bank that also has services that you can access online. I mean, a bank that does not have a brick and mortar, only online, such as Capital One 360 Performance, Goldman Sachs have an account called Marcus, so the Marcus by Goldman Sachs, maybe Ally, maybe American Express Savings. So these are online savings accounts only. So I would suggest looking into that. You can search for them online. You can go to nerdwallet.com or bankrate.com and find the one that works best for you. So I would say that pay yourself first. And then the question that I normally get after I say that is how much? So personal finance is just that, it's personal. So my percentage or dollar amount and Rob's percentage or dollar amount will be different. No matter if we made the same amount of money, our priority and our needs expense wise may be different. So our percentages that we pay ourselves first may be different. My recommendation, and I've learned this along the way, is to ensure something is going to yourself first. And again, I encourage online savings being automatically direct deposit. So automate it and forget about it. So if you work for an employer, give them that account number, have a subset of your paycheck go into that online savings account. Now, some have said to me, and there's a rule of thumb out there that if you work for an employer and you have some going to like a retirement savings account, like a 401k, things like that, that's also considered paying yourself first. I feel differently about that. In the fact of, like, I use the water heater situation that was a personal thing that happened to in our household here is I can't go to my 401k to get that water heater repaired. Right. I can't go to the mortgage company, the car company, all the places that I paid the money to first before I paid myself to take care of that. So that's why I define it as that money that you put aside that's a little bit harder to access because it's not at that brick and mortar, but that you can get it to take care of something that you need to take care of. So that's to define yourself first, or excuse me, pay yourself first.
Got it. That's an interesting way of looking at it. So it's liquid is what you're really saying.
Yes.
We won't be penalized by pulling it out. And again, and I know a thimble of what you know, but I know that the more liquid you are, the poorer the interest rate you're going to get. So and it's just the way it works.
Is exactly right. Is exactly right. And even like say pre-COVID, the accounts examples that I gave, online only savings accounts that I gave, they were, you can average 2% and that's not a lot, right? But that's higher than 0.02% you would get at a brick and mortar. That actually has declined, like that 2 point whatever at the online savings, and they're now like at, I don't know, 0.60. So it's still lower. No, I'm sorry. It's higher than a brick and mortar, but lower than it was pre-COVID. So it may go up, it's a fluctuating number. And at the end of the day, it's still better. If you have access to a credit union, that's another one you want to consider. There's certain eligibility most credit unions require, like live in a certain area, work for a certain company, worship at a certain place. Those are some of the things that are requirements for certain credit unions. But those that you have access to, you may want to consider there, because sometimes their savings accounts have higher interest yielding as well.
I'm smiling because I have a account with one of the banks. We'll leave them out of it. And but to get all the fees waived or whatever, I had to tag on a savings account. And I think that's pretty common in the banks. This is a brick and mortar bank. And the minimum was $500. So I believe it was about 15 years ago when I opened this account up.
Mhm.
And I still in the mail occasionally will get my statement, with that just for the savings account.
Mhm.
And in 15 years, I think I've made like $16. I mean, because that's what a quarter of a percentage point looks like, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's
Yes.
so before everybody who's listening goes 2%, that doesn't sound so good. Now it's less. Believe me, if you go into a brick and mortar, what you're describing, and you go with the interest checking or whatever,
Mhm.
those are some real nasty numbers in there.
They are. And what I try to tell folks too, right? Your savings account is different than checking. Like your checking, I call the operational account. That's where the majority, if you work for an employer, the bulk of your money is going, and you're making those transactions, you're paying the bills, you're writing the checks, or making the, transactions online. The savings account should be an account that you're continuously depositing money into and leaving there. So it's growing at twofold. It's growing, or threefold. It's growing because you are consistently paying yourself first. So you're consistently depositing, and you are earning simple interest, and you're earning compound interest. So again, the rate is different than it was before. So it's not like you're about to get rich off of the interest you're gaining there. But anytime you have more in there than what you started, that's good. So that's what it's about. It's the putting away, continue letting the money stay and grow, and you're continuously adding. And so it's not that, okay, I'm going to put it in there, but I'm going to take some out next week. I don't like to say emergency fund. That's the fund that you feel comfortable if something happens, you can take care of it because you've set yourself up accordingly.
Smart. All right, I'm going to press you on one more thing, and then I'll
Yeah.
move off this. But you're right. We're two different people. We're in two different career stages, et cetera. We've got a collection of people that might be listening all over the board. So we can't come up with a number. But I'm curious, as you talk about this fund, this protection when
Yeah.
life happens,
Yes.
could you push it into a percentage of income? In other
So,
words, let's say that we've got somebody's making $90,000, okay,
mhm,
and somebody else is making 70. Well, they're not going to put the same aside.
yeah.
But is there a rough formula for a percentage for each of them?
Well, yeah. So there is a 50-30-20% rule, right? So 50% on what I'll call your necessities, your mortgage. So those things that you need to take care of. 30% are on the variables, right? So your light bill, your gas bill, because those are bills you still have to take care of, but they may fluctuate depending on the utilization. And then the 20% on savings and wants. Again, I appreciate the change in the way you asked me, but I'm still not set. And maybe because I work with people every day, like
Yeah.
I work one-on-one with folks, and there isn't one client that I've worked with that started at a certain amount, started at a percentage that they thought that made sense, and sustain that. Right. So it's like, okay, let's start small, stay consistent, and let's grow. So usually they get to 20% or even more in some situations. So, and if a person is like very diligent, have their plan, they're going for financial independence, retire early, that's a different person. And usually that person doesn't need me. But if somebody is listening in thinking, I need somebody to give me that magic formula. So then I would say 50-30-20.
Okay.
My caveat to that is I you cannot save and not pay your mortgage. So you can save while paying your mortgage. So if 20% of your income will prohibit you from taking care of your bills, then I can't say that. What I can say is a percentage. So whatever that works for you, if it's one, if it's five, if it's 10, just make sure you're doing a percentage. But the rule of thumb, 50-30-20.
Good.
50 on the bigger things, the middle variable things, 30, and then the 20% for wants and savings and
Yeah. No.
investing.
Yeah, that was helpful, Patrina, because you're right. As I was thinking about, come on, we can get a percentage off this. We can't if my mortgage is a higher percentage of my income than your mortgage is.
That's right.
So it changes the percentages around. So I like that. I like the formula you provided, and I see why the answer can't be 7. We can't.
I wish I could say that. I would, because the other thing, Rob, I find is and which I should be happy about. So given what I do, when we share things like what you're asking, and if people run and do that and that cripples something else, like, well, that it's my money lady told me that's what I should do. So I want to be very careful. Is like there is a guide 20 50 30 20, but you also, when you're managing your money, you will know if that's an actual guide that you can follow, because you're intimate or close enough with your money to know what percentage makes sense. And the goal is to even make that 20% even more. It's just that you have to get there.
Yeah, I understand. And who knows, maybe even where you are in life may also affect that.
That's
Because
right.
as I remember when I was early on, and I do a lot of training, sales training for the financial industry. So I don't know what I'm not a financial expert, but I can teach them how to sell. And I remember them talking about how, when we're younger, everything is extended. It's out there. We're going to set it and forget it. We're going to let it grow.
That's
And
right.
and then I saw, even with my parents, all of a sudden very concerned about monthly income, and how they were changing by age as well.
Yeah.
So it all factors in.
It all factors in. And some folks would think, just using the numbers that you gave, one person makes 90, let's just even say 100 at six, the straight 6 figure, and then another person 70, 50, 60, whatever. It's not that is usually not the determining factor of the percentages, because when people make more, they spend more. And
Right.
sometimes they feel they don't need to manage it because, in another 2 weeks, they got another influx of money. So again, it really is personal to you and what you can do. And together, I work with people to try to figure out that number and try to increase that bottom percentile, so that it's at the a rate that you can start to feel that fun and be comfortable and be a little bit more relaxed and feel that sense of freedom, that you have that cushion there.
Yeah, makes sense. Now I'm looking at my notes here, and I see that you've written a book.
I
Uh,
have.
what's the name of your book?
It's called It's My Money.
Oh,
That's what I
well, there you go.
trademarked. Yeah.
That's the
So my
TM.
yeah. So my and thank you for asking. My book is called It's My Money, a guided journal to help you manage your finances. And when the book was first published, volume one, because it's the one that's published is the first of a 3-part series, it took off. Like that one was written for ages 13 to 18. And that's when I started going into schools. And that's when I'm a big quote person. So that's when I made an observation and made it my obligation to help do something. So when you make an observation, you have an obligation. And I observed that young people are still not taught this information. I also observed that schools weren't going to easily let me come in just because I thought it made sense, because they have their own curriculum and they need to get through that, and the teachers doing that. So how can I help supplement that? So that's how I became the facilitator that would go in to do that. And my book became the leave behind, the way that my message could be sustained, by talking about it, telling students why it's important, and then the schools would purchase the books to be able to give out to the students. And then that's when I went, as I talked about earlier, with the senator went to the senator to say, hey, we got to do something about it. Like, Connecticut is one of the richest, I'm in Connecticut, one of the richest states, whatever that is defined as now in the country. We need to do something about this. There are, some, at the time when I started this conversation with the senator, there were less schools or less states that required personal finance in schools. So I, got a lot of that information for him. And it has since increased since we started, and Connecticut still is not one of those states. So that's how the book came out. The book came out. That's how my career started with young people. And then it was a catchy name. It's My Money. I go to the grocery store. Hey, It's My Money lady. So I said, I need to trademark this baby, which I did. And now all of my financial programs, and I've gone as far as Trinidad and Tobago, teaching personal finance to young people, that it's all under that umbrella. So personal finance, education programs, online, in person, It's My Money is owned by me, which I'm really proud of.
Nice, nice. As a fellow owner of 2 trademarks, There is, and with me, by the way, I have to tell you, because people listening, what is a trademark? How do you trade? Uh, my thing is, and maybe you'll agree, I'm really not that possessive of my trademark. I just didn't want to build something and have somebody go, hey, that's pretty smart. I'm going to take that now and I'll trademark it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like building a brand and then finding that you're being asked to stop using your brand. So for me, like one of my trademarks is the word blarticle, a blog
Uh,
article. And I have people frequently will send me an email. Is it all right if I use that? It's like, of course. Uh,
uh,
Everyone can use it. Just don't come after me and say that it isn't mine. But
yeah.
it does provide protection. I think you were smart to trademark it. Where can they get the book?
Sure. So it's definitely on Amazon.
Mhm.
So you can search by my name, Patrina Dixon, or by the book's name. It's also on my website. My website is itsmymoneyjournal.info. So if you're an Amazoner and you need to put it in your cart, you can do it there. For those of you that are authors, there's royalties by purchasing through Amazon, and I get more of those by coming directly to me. So it's my money journal.info. That's my website. There's a shop there and you can grab the book there. I would love it.
Perfect. Perfect. That's wonderful. All right, let's wrap up with one last question.
Yeah.
Let's do this. You're talking about going into the schools. You're talking about kids. However, um, is that who you typically work with? I mean, or are you working with the kids' parents as well?
So now I work more with adults than I
Mhm.
do young people. My heart is still with young people. And however, I've transitioned, and the pandemic actually had me transition even further. So I am now offering group programs online, so virtual group programs online. And the first signature program is called the It's My Money Masters program. I'm so excited. And so the whole It's My Money mission is about it's my money and I'm going to do right by my money. I'm going to be a great steward of my money. I am going to save more of my money. I'm going to earn more money. I am going to not pay excessive fees to banks and credit card companies, etc., because I paid my bills late or I didn't pay it at all, or my credit is bad, so my interest rate is high. That's the whole mission behind It's My Money. And then the program, by way of its name, It's My Money Masters program, is I'm going to master that. I am going to learn how to ditch that so I can be free. And so be free, have a higher credit score, have more options. So that's what the whole program is about. So the first cohort is launching this February. So next month, it's launching. The cart will open sometime next week. So you can look for that to come through all of my social handles. I can be found as Is My Money across all social feeds. And I encourage you to check it out. I'm really excited. It's the first time that I'm launching in this way. Most of my work has been in person, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say I love in-person workshops, engaging with people. That's my thing. I love doing that. But I'm excited about this opportunity and being able to still bring people what they need using platforms like Zoom and various different things that we're on. So I love, and the fact that I can stay with the people. So when I go into a room, whatever the size of the room, 10, 50, 500, or no, I haven't been in a 500 one, but 10, 50, 100, 200, I speak, I do my thing. I share with them various different things like we're talking about here today on the podcast, and then I'll go away. Right. With this group of people, this 10-week program, they're starting with me, they're going through 10 weeks, and I will hopefully get to appreciate the success that they will feel going through it and them realizing that they can do it. And I know that they can because I was once at a place where my credit score was horrible. I didn't have any money saved. I made a lot of money. So that's why I was talking about it early. I made a lot, but I spent a lot. I spent it as soon as I got it. So it's about learning that you need to retain some of that. So I'm really excited about this finally coming off. I had this thought in my head for some time and kind of getting right to the finish mark to fruition. I'm really excited about it. So thank you for asking.
Well, you should be. You should be. Listen, there, again, we kind of go back to the beginning. There's a lot of things that we need to learn, but money sneaks up on people. It just sneaks up on you. So listen, folks, it's your money. Okay.
Yes.
So you need to find somebody who knows how to work with you. And Patrina, I think it's been delightful listening to you. I think that, and I'm glad you gave your contact information out so people can find you, find that book,
Yes.
and keep doing what you're doing, because I really think that it's actually, I know it's kind of crazy. It's almost patriotic when you're able to go out and help people handle this, because ultimately, if we can take care of our finances, we can be good citizens, we can be happy citizens.
Exactly.
And the world's just is a friendlier place. And last thing I'll say is this: you absolutely hit it on the head, folks. Just remember, when you're making the money's coming in, and that's always nice. Just remember, taxes are going up too. There's a lot of hands out, and it goes fast. And so this is something you've got to be proactive on, and finding somebody to work with is critical. And Patrina, you sound like you know what you're talking about. And I'm going to grab that book myself, so I'm looking forward to taking a look at that. I'll jump on Amazon and take a peek. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at Jolles.com.